Everybody lies. White lies, small lies, hard lies, lies. I believe we can all agree to that. Is this a matter of how often do we lie? Do we lie even to ourselves? Now, I'm not here to make judgment, but merely to address a trait that's very natural to us human beings. Instead, I'd like to address the impact of intellectual dishonesty in the investing world. As a co-founder of a startup building an analytics and intelligence software, I'm curious in understanding why investors will make intellectually dishonest investment decisions as well as strategies, and at times lying to themselves as well. But before we dive in deeper, I would like to first explain what intellectual dishonesty means. And I find it easier to understand if we look at it from what intellectual honesty means. Simply, it's just knowing the truth and speaking the truth, as well as making decisions based on factual evidence. Ultimately, it is also acting in truth. At present day, there are more than 200 biases that has been discovered by behavioral scientists. And we are all subject to these biases, one way or the other. In fact, you can try it yourself at this website that Harvard has been doing this research for decades. Now, there are also research findings that shows some of these biases are actually positive survival traits for us to cope and adapt in this competitive world. But why is this an issue? Why is this intellectual dishonesty a problem? I would like to answer this by sharing a story that I witnessed when I was living in Beijing, China. So I had an European friend who was invited to become a CTO in this new startup in Beijing. So he left his home in Europe, packed his bag, moved to China, and in a few months, his Chinese CEO was about to close an angel investment. But the angel investor has an unusual request. The request was to have him replaced to a Chinese CTO. Reason being, the investor didn't believe that he could effectively lead a group of Chinese engineers due to language and cultural barriers. At the same time, the Chinese investor was unable to communicate effectively with him as well because this European CTO could not speak a single word of Chinese. So the Chinese CEO gave in to the demand and took the money and let the European CTO go. As a result, within less than a year, the startup failed. So in hindsight, the European CTO is obviously a more talented and capable person to lead the tech team, while the Chinese CTO, having no entrepreneurial experience and leadership qualities, he struggled. In fact, he also got into a dispute with the CEO that led him getting sacked, and then he disgruntledly filed a legal case against her. So, what if this decision was made fairly. As a result, billions and billions of dollars are lost every year just from investing in the wrong people. In fact, opportunities are lost, at times also invested by the wrong people. Now, before I go further, I would like to give a caveat. Due to the nature of our work and data findings, I'm sharing some American case studies and insights. In 2022, 1% of African American managed to raise venture capital. 1.5 Latino founders only managed to raise capital, and followed by 1.9 female founders. Let me put that in perspective. In 2022, there were more than $241 billion invested in American startups. And there were more than 17,000 of them. So that means 1% of that equate to $2.4 billion to the African American founders. And then $3.6 billion to Latino founders, followed by $4.5 billion to the female founders. In total, it was only $10.5 billion out of the $241 billion. When investments are made in such ways, obviously the level ground, the playing field is not leveled. Now, is there a solution to this? I would like to recommend a scientific and data-driven approaches to make objective evaluation in our decision-making while we pursue intellectual honesty. In fact, I would like to share this simple honesty matrix. Honest to other is when, for instance, imagine I've been pitched a business idea, which I think has little investment value, and I've decided to pass. So that's me being true to my judgment. And this honest to self would be when in the same situation, I've been pitched another business idea. Now, this business idea is horrible. And I told the hopeful entrepreneur that, hey, why don't you give it a go? Let's see how it turns out. Now, that's being dishonest to other. And being honest to other, in this third example, may mean, for instance, I've been invited to participate in a green tech project by building a geothermal power plant, which in theory, of course, also in the real world, it's a good initiative. And so I agree to it. Right? That's me being honest to others. But in the fifth example of being dishonest to self would be in that evaluation of that potential project, I discovered that the development cost is actually far greater than what I expected, which makes no business sense. But then, by agreeing to it, the governmental body will agree to exempt me on certain tax contribution, right? So, in wanting that tax benefits, I lie to myself. I'm not being honest to myself, and I agree. I still pursue and agree the project. So that's what it means. Obviously, we would like to be in the blue zone, where we are honest to ourselves as well as others. And what would that mean? Again, imagine a hopeful entrepreneur come to me requesting for a business loan. Now, in reality, the business is not yet financeable. And I told this truth to this hopeful young entrepreneur. And I told him that I'm willing to give him 1 hour of my time every month for the duration of 7 months to help him to ramp up his revenue so that he can get his financing later. And I do so. A lot of times, people act dishonestly to others as well as self in a manner of such example. Imagine I have filed for a patent to protect my product. And in the United States, it takes more than 1 year for the application to be approved. But here I am lying to everybody, including myself, that I've gotten the approval the moment I've submitted the application. And in doing so, I'm letting everybody know that I've got my patent so that I can fend off competitors and to protect the uniqueness of my product design. Imagine if we could make investments based on intellectually honest judgment. What kind of world will we be looking at? I know that this is hard because we're naturally biased. Earlier, I gave the example that it could be a self-defense mechanism to survivability. But I believe if we are honest and transparent with one another, we could find the right answer even when we do not know it at present time. Let me show you one last thing. Remember the sad statistics that I showed you earlier about how underrepresented founders in the United States, they could only access a nominal amount of venture capital? Now, this is a chart showing venture capital reserve that all the venture capital firms in the United States have. Dry powder simply means the capital of money that were not invested. And each year, it's growing. Now, going back to 2022 as an example, if you look at the chart, there are more than 300 billion venture capital that were not deployed. 1% of 300 billion is 3 billion. 5% of 300 billion is 15 billion. 10% of 300 billion is 30 billion. I think if we could just act with a slight sheer willpower, just to improve the odds by a little, I believe great things could happen. Sure, we are looking at a wicked problem because we are naturally biased and we all lie. But I believe we should all try. In fact, just last night, I was reminded by a wise Jedi master, do or do not, there is no try. So I would like to encourage us, let's do our best. Thank you.